What is going on, Clippers fans? Welcome to a Monday night happy hour live hang, Clips and Dip. I am Chuck Mockler, joined by Adam Osland. Will Updike possibly might be on later, who knows. If you're watching us, thank you for hanging out. If you're listening to this, because I am going to put it out for the audio later, you can watch these at youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. The Clippers made a trade today. Norm Powell no longer on the team. He is in Miami. They get a great player in Norm Powell. The prophecy has been complete now, Adam. John Collins is an LA Clipper.
Speak it into existence like LeVar Ball.
It happened. Are they? I don't know if they're related in any way, but it absolutely happened. How do you feel about? I mean, how do we feel before we get into the stats and whatnot? I was a little surprised to see the news come in.
Yeah, we wondered, it was going to happen. Why hasn't it happened yet? I think we got our answer. They were looking for a third team, and that made all three parties satisfied with Norm going to Miami, with Utah getting a second-round pick and some cap relief. That's what they were looking for in the end, and it makes sense. Lawrence Frank said today that they had been looking at John Collins for some time. So
Years.
it's not like he wasn't on their radar. I don't think he got bullied or pressured into getting John Collins from Clippers Twitter. I know you guys did the best you could, and maybe there was some influence. Who knows? He's already a fan favorite.
Very true. He's coming into a very favorable situation. There might be some people with a Collins jersey already made.
Yeah. I would be shocked if Carl Tart didn't have one.
Collins can play the 4. It's fantastic to see. Obviously, it's tough to see Norm go, but Norm goes to a good situation. Before we get into this great question that's on the screen, shout out to Norm Powell, man. What a run as an LA Clipper. He was our guy. He left it all on the floor. How many times did he literally end up on the floor, or how many times did he bleed during games for the Clippers? The man gave it his all, and the Heat got a great player.
Got a permanent scar, I think, between his eyebrows as a member of the Clippers,
Yeah.
and he just rolled with it. I think he was just like, no, this is me now, 24 Savage. Norm's a badass. He's going to be one of my favorite Clippers. Just the consummate professional, somebody that was easy to root for. Storm and Norman Powell, the Powell Rangers, like nothing but fond memories and good things to say about Norman Powell. And the Miami Heat got a really good player, and he's going to help them, and he's going to crush it in the Eastern Conference now.
Yeah, very true. The Clippers obviously pretty clear made the trade because they didn't see the extension really matching up with where we're at financially, we as in being that front office, and the window that the Clippers have right now. If you look at all the recent deals, they're 2-year deals. They match up with James and Kawhi. Hopefully he can get the big extension. But another guy who's going to be up for an extension is John Collins after this season. It's kind of like a not prove it, but chance to make a lot of money if you have a good year for John Collins, which I like from an off-the-court motivation perspective.
Yeah, I think that's real. I think that's something you have to consider. He's turning 28. He will be smack dab in the prime of his career at the end of this season. He will be looking to get paid. What that means for the Clippers moving forward, it's all about what happens this year. Let's see what the fit looks like. Let's see if what everybody wanted plays out on the court the way they expect it to.
What people wanted was an actual 4 size-wise who can also shoot the 3. Collins shot 38% on threes, pretty much all catch-and-shoot threes. So he's coming into a system that is the drive, kick, swing, and we know he can take catch-and-shoot threes, so that's good, right?
Yeah, his catch and shoot 3 stuff. I mean, he shot 40% from 3 overall on all threes last season, and I'm guessing he'll see more open threes. At least he should at this point. I think the trade-off is that there's more high leverage threes you're going to see playing for the Clippers. They're going to be more meaningful than any shot he took with the Utah Jazz that is going through a rebuild still.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, where does we got a good question. do you see him starting? There's kind of been people are a little
Yes.
all over the place. William Updike is here. I just told someone in the chat that Will was in Italy, so it's great that Will could make this despite the time change. Will, buona noche. How are you doing?
Bueno, ciao bella, ciao bella.
How are you feeling about the trade? We just kind of said our feelings on it. Where are you at? Do you already have the Collins jersey being printed up? What's going on?
Well, I mean, first off, I had to make a drink. There's a little Amaro in there because I'm in Italy. Got a cheers to all the Collins heads who have been asking for this for as long as I've been alive, as long as John Collins has been in the league. I'm not really even sure how to quantify it at this point. It felt like the most likely of outcomes and somehow was still unexpected. I see we're getting some Jurassic Rebirth thoughts in the chat.
Thank you, Roger.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Hoping that this trade goes a little bit better than that.
Well said.
You guys saw it too?
I haven't seen it yet. I did see your tweet about it, which was very funny.
Dear God, what an abomination. And that's saying something because they've had a few stinkers here.
We'll save the movie talk for our Patreon, which also includes Dip Talk. So if you really want that, send us $40.
Dip debate, really.
Dip debate.
One thing I thought was interesting, I was listening to Zach Lowe today, who did some coverage on the trade. When he was running down his starting lineup, he wasn't forecasting John Collins in there as the starting four. He had DJJ over him, which I thought was an interesting sort of notion. I don't know about you guys, but I guess my immediate thought was the reason you go for a four like John Collins, even taking a step back from shooting, which we know the front office was prioritizing, even taking a step back from scoring, which they lacked drastically. You would think that would be with the ideation to go ahead and play Collins at the four in that starting lineup. Am I off base there? Is that where you guys are at? What do we got going on there?
Big casual vibes.
I was just about to go off on this.
Zach Lowe with big casual vibes. I never would have thought. No, I love Zach Lowe, and I heard that earlier too, and I kind of raised an eyebrow. Like, I don't think they're bringing him in. I think it'll be his job to lose. I think that's how I'm looking at this.
That's a great point. And as we said, there's three guys. There's three guys whose spot in the rotation is absolutely secured. Anybody else, I suppose, is up for debate. But I would be very surprised if John Collins was not your starting for opening night.
He also, I think the thing too, we're gonna have our favorite French Canadian reporter hop on.
We got Italy. We got Italy represented. We got France represented. We got Canada represented.
Was the idea of the defense maybe falls off, which Collins isn't exactly known for his defense, but if he's going to be between Kawhi Leonard and Ivica Zubac, I feel okay about what his defensive prowess is going to be for what he gives us on the other end.
Law Murray did use the words earlier that he's a nightmare on the perimeter, or he was defensively on the perimeter, a nightmare for the Utah Jazz this past season. And many have said, he's better as a 5 than he is as a 4. At least he was in Utah. Different circumstances. I think it's at least something to be aware of here. You should probably throw a little bit of cold water on your face and just realize that just because his initials are JC doesn't mean he's the savior for this team. It's something where
wow. Is your hand on fire? Did you write that out?
100 cooking. Yeah, I think as excited as everybody is, he still is a guy that has some major flaws on the defensive end that could be mitigated by the guys around him or by the coaching staff or by just being in a change of scenery where he is now getting a new lease on life in his career, where he's out of Utah, where he's been the last 2 seasons, not playing high leverage basketball, as I mentioned.
But who doesn't? For what the Clippers have available to get. You're not getting a top 20 player. You're not getting a top 50 player. You're getting, these are some of the better options out there. I also do think playing next to Lauri Markkanen presents its own sort of issues. And if you look at both of the teams where Collins was at immediately before his Clippers tenure, they weren't exactly defensive stalwarts. Not that I'm saying he's going to turn around and suddenly be a much better defender. But I will say, even just a greater emphasis on effort and some better defensive scheming, I do think that some of that can be mitigated a little bit. Again, I don't think that he's gonna like somehow be great now, but I do think that you can, elevate the floor of that defensive play. I guess is all I'll say.
Yeah.
Someone brought up in the chat too, like it's not like Norm was killing it on the perimeter with his defense. You know what I mean? Like we didn't lose any of the good defensive guys in this trade at all. We didn't drop off defense. Yeah.
The problem though could be like you can get more exploited with the guys John Collins may be asked to guard versus who they're hiding and where they're hiding Norman Powell. But I think with this coaching staff, they're going to get the best out of him. Whatever he can do defensively, whatever he is capable of, it's just if it's a motivation thing, if it's a motor thing, I think they have the ability to bring out the best in a guy like this.
I mean, yeah, we have JVG. I'm excited to see how we saw the defense change. Obviously, we saw a bunch of Dunn and Derrick Jones Jr., whose roles, they're both kind of diminished. They're both diminished from being starters. It'll be interesting to see what he does with just the defensive scheme with a couple of these new guys. I'm looking forward to that.
See, this is the stuff I feel like we should pump the brakes on. This is our Aaron Gordon to the Denver Nuggets type move. Aaron Gordon was looked at as like a number 1 or number 2 option on a championship team when he was drafted and he was playing with Orlando and was a very young player.
How old was Jokic when that trade happened?
5
years younger?
We have a French Canadian in the waiting room. Guess I have to let them in. Welcome to the show, Justin Russo. How you doing, buddy?
Oui.
Yes.
How have you been, Justin? Have you been getting any sleep, tracking all this Clippers free agency insanity?
Well, between that and keeping up with the dog that's been having some medical emergencies, I haven't been sleeping that much. So it's been great. Yeah, he's fine. I think he'll be fine. Right. So just one of those things where it's the off season, but apparently not for the dog, who decides that he needed to spice up my life a little bit. And so did the Clippers and Lawrence Frank this morning.
He's locked in. Your dog is locked in.
He felt it in his bones that it was happening.
Yeah.
Got that dog in him.
He was so overwhelmed with joy, his body couldn't handle it.
Exactly. We're all getting up there in age. So it's like when you can sense the rain in your knee when you get older,
In dog years, he's been waiting for this trade for 72 years.
Okay, let's not age him that much here. Well,
Russo, I wanted to talk to you about this right away. Lawrence Frank alluded to this, using John Collins offensively alongside both Ivica Zubac and Brook Lopez. How excited are we to look at the 3-man lineup numbers of Collins, Lopez, and Zoo?
Not that excited.
I'm hyped.
What the hell are you talking about, man?
Lawrence said it. I'm going off of Lawrence Frank, dude.
That's not what he said.
I thought he said Zoo and Brook Lopez they may experiment with.
No,
what did he say, Jeff?
That I got from someone's tweet, who may or may not be in this chat, said Lawrence Frank has talked about the intricate ways they can use John Collins offensively alongside both Ivica Zubac and Brook Lopez.
That could mean how he plays with one and then how he plays with
that was one and the other.
Not if you're crazy.
Both of them at once.
Not if you're crazy.
Listen, if the rest of the Western Conference is gonna zig to 2 bigs, sometimes you got to zag to 3.
So what's the lineup? Harden, Kawhi, Collins, Brook.
Yeah,
no, you got to get fully crazy. It's like Derek, Kawhi, and then the 3 bigs. Like it's like pterodactyls out there.
Good luck, dude. Good luck.
Keeping up with the Jurassic Park theme, by the way.
Realistically, Justin, this is now a better roster than the Clippers started last season with.
Yes. I don't know who would disagree with that.
Even without the addition of another guard.
Correct.
And the lack of scoring. Copy.
Yeah. They're a little light at guard now, but I think that gets solved.
New problem. Brand new problem for this team.
Yeah, you're just plugging holes and you got to figure it out as you go along. But I think the guard thing obviously will work itself out in coming days. So we'll see.
The language that Lawrence Frank used today makes me very confident that it's going to work itself out very soon here. I don't think he would have alluded to it to that degree if they didn't know something was very close.
Yeah, he said, we address some needs. There are other needs we have to address. We'll continue to work through it.
So Beal's a done deal, right?
It's looking like Bradley Beal will probably be a Clipper.
You would go ahead and say, get that jersey now.
Carl Tart, buy the jersey.
By the way, on Jersey Watch, big Jersey Watch between Brooke Lopez and Jordan Miller. Let's be honest here.
Oh, that's true.
Jordan Miller's only ever worn number 11 in college in the NBA. So is Brooke Lopez.
And if they got Beal,
they should have to play one-on-one for it. I feel like it's only fair.
Listen, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
You think Bradley Beal ends up starting? Would that be something they'd be dangling during negotiations?
I was trying to figure that out before we recorded this, because that makes you talk about some rough point of attack defense. James Harden, Bradley Beal, that's a little difficult.
Brad would
start. John Collins is starting for sure too in that lineup.
I would be shocked if Brad doesn't start if he's here. And I would be shocked if John isn't starting when he's here. I'm on a first name basis now. These are the people I have to cover.
Brad. B-Rad.
Malibu Tay.
I'm with you, and I actually think we already know about Dunn's sort of offensive limitations, and I actually think that Beal next to Harden in the backcourt is a closer pairing to what we had last year. When it was working. So I think that makes the most sense. And then you've, feasibly upgraded both positions.
Yeah. Well, the problem is then you're down to only 2 good defenders and relying on Kawhi to defend more.
That's what I'm worried about.
That's a big identity shift.
Lawrence did say today that Kawhi was excited for the trade, and all signs, this is me talking now, not Lawrence, but all signs point to that. Kawhi's embraced the fact that he's going to have to play a little bit more small forward this year.
Have to.
And
the guy who said 2 years ago, I'll play power forward until they get a real one, would have a problem with playing small forward.
Yeah, I guess I don't understand that part.
Well, the interesting part was Lawrence today said that Kawhi has relayed that he'll do whatever it takes, whatever the team needs for him to do. So,
has he ever vocalized that he was unhappy with the trade and was unwilling to do whatever the team asked him to do?
No, but we can find out pretty soon if we just ask him.
Yeah, that's true.
When he gets back from the Paris fashion show, or if that's still going on.
You don't.
I like what we heard of.
No, I just my invitation got lost in the mail.
Sure.
I like what we heard about James Harden too. That he's helped with recruiting. Guys want to play with him. That was cool to hear.
Yeah, Lawrence mentioned it in that because free agents are seeing how playing with James can benefit them in the open market if they hit it again. So, yeah. I mean, look, if you play with James Harden, the odds are your job's a little bit easier offensively. You're not having to do as much. So, stands to reason.
Where do you rank John Collins' defense? Law Murray earlier on with me said he can be a nightmare on the perimeter, or he was last season for the Utah Jazz. Like, what are we in store for, and can they fix it?
Where on the Clippers would you rank it, I guess? Let's put it in context of the team.
I got to remember. This is going to sound terrible. I got to remember who's on the team. I'm pulling up the list.
Jordan Miller.
So, Kawhi's above him. Shocker. Zoo's above him. Oh, is it just perimeter defenders?
Yeah, let's do perimeter defenders.
Okay. Kawhi's above him. Derek's above him. Chris is above him. Nico's above him. And then you're getting to like between him, James, and Bogey. And
okay.
Yeah, it's.
I'm getting okay.
Yeah.
He's the borderline. He's basically the 500 guy, kind of, because everyone else is. Perimeter defense-wise, a pretty sharp drop-off from the top of the Clippers.
His perimeter defense was pretty bad last year. But what I will say is his weak side defense was pretty solid. And he did play quite a bit with Walker Kessler, or at least when they were both available. and the numbers with him and Walker were pretty good. There's the misconception that Utah Jazz were a bad team, and they were a bad team. That's not the misconception. But when their guys,
crazy stuff on this show,
but when the guys were on the floor, like their best players were actually on the floor, they were a solid to good team. They were a +7 net rating with their 4 best players on the floor. Like this is now granted, it was like 300 minutes. It's just
functional basketball.
Yeah, it wasn't.
They were so good they had to take them off because they didn't want to lose. Draft pick.
Yeah, pretty much.
Literally.
They had to. Yeah, are the Jazz actually good? 2 years away from being 2 years away.
This is the most big brain take I've heard on this show. To be honest with you.
Look. It sounds pretty plain to say when their best players were on the floor, they were good, but like they did have to bench John Collins and Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler. Walker Kessler was just chucking threes in the second half of the year because they weren't trying. It's just what happened. So
they got all that pay
by
off
the NBA. They got Ace.
They got Ace and they got fined, and then they fell from 1st to 5th. So.
And Ace is hyped to be there, so that's going to work out great.
Never seen a happier man in my life.
Is there a world in which CP3 comes to the Clippers? Because a lot of people have been excited about that. There is a way they could get both Beal and Chris Paul. But that, because now we're talking about guys starting, and I don't think if they got Chris Paul and Bradley Beal, that both of them will be starting. Maybe they would, and I would cut my own head off.
Move to the bench.
There we go. Save him. He can play the second and the third quarter. He just doesn't play the first and the fourth. Where are we at on Chris Paul? It's supposedly between the Clippers and the Suns, right?
I've heard 2 different things. I've heard that he's not ruled out for the Clippers, or he's not ruled the Clippers out. And then I've also heard that because they are most likely the Bradley Beal destination, that kind of rules Chris Paul out himself.
That makes sense.
So I don't know. I mean,
does he finally get his Lakers moment all these years later?
He could play alongside Luka. That'd be fun. Just have 2 40-year-olds on the court together, you know?
Yeah, that sounds really fun. I would like to see that.
They got defensive issues already. I don't know if that would be the best move for them.
Adam, I feel like this one was queued up for you. The way this is phrased is very funny. Is L. Frank an underrated GM? I feel like we always make the right trades. Adam, you have been not pulling receipts, but looking at the till of some things that people have said about Lawrence Frank. Justin, you got to give me that one. That was pretty good. Is L. Frank an underrated GM?
Only to his own fan base. He won Executive of the Year 5 years ago. Like he to me, people keep saying, somebody was hitting me up saying something to the effect of, if you want a mid-team but not a championship level team, yeah, he does a pretty good job. And I'm like, guys, who put together the team we all thought was going to win in 2021 before Kawhi Leonard tore his ACL? That would have been Lawrence Frank. I think he has put together some really good teams. I think for the most part, the downfalls of the Clippers have been things outside of their controls because of injuries. And then there comes the draft people, and they're like, well, he doesn't draft well enough. Well, almost all the picks are late first rounders or second rounders, and those have a very small chance of making it. You guys find the outliers like Christian Brown, but you don't find all the other guys who ended up not making it around the same area he was picked at. And Clippers haven't had good enough luck there. And yeah, they can do better with their drafting. I agree with that. Nobody's perfect, but I think he's probably been underrated. Yeah.
I think underrated is fair. Justin, your rebuttal.
I think it's hard to evaluate general managers unless they're objectively bad. And you know an objectively bad general manager when you see one. So like I think a lot of moves in the NBA require intricate context. And like today, Lawrence Frank said about John Collins that he's someone they've targeted for the last couple of years. So it's clearly someone who's been on their radar that they just haven't been able to trade for before today. So it's like, how do you judge that move? Like that he didn't make it 2 years ago when it's like should he have given up more to get him?
Yes.
That's what some people will argue. But turns out they only, I mean, I say only, but they gave up Norman Powell and really not, they gave up a second, but like really nothing else. And that same trade maybe a year or two ago requires a lesser player going out, but more draft capital. So there's
which
a balance.
People would have lost their damn minds about.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing too that I see is like, well, he can't draft, but why is he trading draft picks? Well, if you think he can't draft and you get mad at him trading picks, then what's the like? What do you care? Like you can't.
Same
maybe
people
he knows
he can't draft don't want him to trade picks. Make it make sense.
It's like, well, maybe if he knows he's bad at drafting and he's trading picks, then obviously he knows he's bad at drafting and doesn't need them. So, like, who cares? But I think with a lot of things in sports and especially in the NBA, there's nuance that needs to be applied. And I think he's an objectively fine general, or he's not even a general manager, effectively fine president of basketball operations because Trent Redden's the GM.
Lee Jenkins is the GM.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
We all know who's really pulling the strings.
Yeah, Lee's in the back room just dialing it up,
crushing it. By the way,
I think
it's like when
two.
It's like when everyone gave Jerry West credit for like signing Kawhi or trading for PG, and it's like, well, it's a collective body that does this, and then one guy ends up making the call, and the guy that makes the call is technically Steve Ballmer. So I don't know where you want to lay it down at the feet of. So it's a basketball organization. It's not one guy.
Yeah.
Everything that was good was Jerry West. Everything that's bad is Lawrence Frank.
People also forget that Jerome Robinson was Jerry West's guy.
Jerome Robinson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Oh, yeah.
Shit happens, So
yeah, I'll never forget that. Some of us will never forget that.
Someone is also bringing up in the chat that which I've thought about too. I do think that part of being a GM is you're sort of managing some of like player wants and demands that are somewhat outside of your control. I'll always remember the famous Lawrence Frank press conference after the press conference immediately preceding the signing of Russell Westbrook, when we talked about the kind of guys that we wanted on this team, defensive-minded, three-point guys. It's good stuff. Good stuff.
How do people still think he gave up the? How is this still a thing? L. Frank gave up the entire farm for PG. How do people still not realize that, like, obviously they did it to lure Kawhi? Like, how do you not add in that context?
And that's another situation, too, where, like, their hand was a little bit forced by the star that they wanted to get.
And there are partnerships now with players, with player empowerment. Every star is like a franchise unto themselves in today's NBA league. And if you don't work with them, you're probably never getting those guys. Everybody does it to some degree.
All gems from Adam today. Question: we were talking about on the last episode Harden's second year being partially guaranteed. I don't want to sound like a rube. How does this work, and why did he agree to it?
Rube away.
That's me. I'm like, what? I assume he's getting paid another $40 million.
So it works like a mutual option. He picks it up. So like if he picks it up, then the Clippers can basically just decide not to pick up the remaining portion. He is partially guaranteed. I want to say, from what I've heard, I think it's like 13 million or so.
Yeah.
And I saw that floated out there by someone. So basically in this scenario, like James picks up his player option, the Clippers decline their aspect of it basically and waive him, and they start to pay him the 13 million, and then they get that money, not get the money back, but you know what I mean?
It's whatever.
So yeah,
it's like a $13 million buyout, basically.
Essentially, yeah. The Bradley Beal
counts towards the cap.
Yeah, the 13 will count against the cap. Yeah. Some people call it the Bradley Beal.
I am local Rube. That's fair. I've been wondering it all day.
All day? You've been wondering this all day? What have you been doing?
I had a very slow day at work.
Okay. That's
thinking about this.
You seen the first scene of About Schmidt?
No one else on
before?
here could have explained it.
Oh man.
Save it for the Patreon. The Patreon is Dip Talk and Film Talk. That is it.
Yeah, I like that Adam was about to go on and about Schmidt.
He said he had a slow day at work. He's just watching the clock, like the beginning of About Schmidt. Great movie.
Well, I will say, just to add on one thing, I do find it rather interesting. The Clippers have had de facto team options essentially on their 3 signings of the summer. James, obviously, the mutual option with the non-guaranteed second year, or at least partially guaranteed second year. And then Brooke, they got a team option. And Nico, they got a team option. If I said Waven, I'm sorry. It's a long day. My brain is fried. I don't know what that even means.
Oh, long day for Justin. Okay, yeah.
Oh, maybe I did say Waven. If James Harden gets Waven, so.
Much like the ending scene of About Schmidt.
Some say. But yeah, no, it's interesting.
Comes together.
It's interesting that they got 3 kind of team options on the older guys. So it gives them some leeway going into the offseason. I know a lot's been made about 2027, but I had heard even as of 2 years ago, before the PG thing had come into fruition, that, or even the James trade had even come into fruition, that they had looked at basically keying in on 2026 offseason.
Yeah.
So
right.
They still have a lot of flexibility. The timeline could be a year quicker.
It's like
even
50 or 60 million possibly, I think, in cap space for that year.
Yeah,
if, the James Harden thing, works how it should.
I mean, because basically, like, Bogey's on a team option, Nico's team option, Kobe Brown's team option, which his team option date, I believe, is coming up. Or maybe it already got picked up. I'd have to go double check. But then you end up going through, and it's like the guaranteed guys in terms of money on the roster are Kawhi, Zoo, Derek, and then Cam Christie, really, and Yana Conan Niederhauser. I don't know why I said his full name. You gotta just
Kaidos will probably be on there too after the end of this season.
We should just become an all-name team. Just get the greatest names you could ever think of. And who knows? Maybe you can throw in a Luka Doncic. Maybe you can throw in a Luka Doncic and a Giannis Antetokounmpo, like for all names as we discuss this. Going into next season or 2026.
I think after today, because you traded out one expiring contract for $20 million for an expiring in John Collins that's $26 million, they might be able to get up to about $66 million this offseason. If you went partial guarantee on James, you mentioned Brook Lopez, he's got the team option. They don't bring back John Collins, Batum, Bogey. Like, I think 2026 is back on the menu, boys. Like, enough of this 2-year. We have to wait 2 years. 2026 is real.
I'm going to pull up a list of the 2026 free agents for Garrett Griffin specifically. If you're wondering what we're talking about.
Well, Charles looked this up.
Adam, I'm trying to promote the YouTube. I'm trying to promote the YouTube for the audio channel.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Watch us so you can watch me yell at these guys at youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. Thanks for hanging out, Garrett Griffin. Proceed.
Justin, while Charles looks this up, let's say the Beal deal isn't as done as we think it is. Where do we pivot from there if that doesn't end up being the case?
I mean, it would be Chris, right? It would Chris Paul. Just that's the logical pivot.
Is that enough scoring? Can he slot into a starting role?
I don't think with Chris, I don't think it's a scoring thing. I think it's more of like they had turnover issues last year and he doesn't turn the ball over.
Yeah. Addition by subtraction, if you will.
Oh, no. Year 2? 2 addition, 2 subtraction?
You think there's any chance he would start?
Addition by subtraction, the double negative, baby.
What'd you say, Adam?
CP3 in the starting backcourt with James Harden. You think that's possible?
I don't rule it out at some point just because Chris is a smart basketball player and he wants to start. I understand like the hesitancy about like, well, he's 40 years old, so why would you let him start? It's like all he's ever done is start outside of like 40 games in Golden State where he was pissed off coming off the bench. but he still did it. But like he wasn't happy about it, and then he got shipped off to what was it, Washington? Is that what it was? And he got bought out.
Quickly.
I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world if he starts. I also think if he were to start, it's like 25 minutes a night.
I do have concerns about this reconfiguration with the starting lineup, and there's a lot of ifs here because they don't even have Beal or CP3 yet. But you're taking one more defender off the floor with the lineup we just talked about earlier, and this team was third in defense last season. So it would be a pretty big shift away from that great point of attack defense that was kind of what they hung their hat on.
Yeah, I've seen people talk about, well, they got rid of like their three, what people classified as their three worst defenders or whatever. And then they brought in Brook Lopez. It's like, that's true. They brought in Brook and they brought in, oh my God, I just blanked, John Collins, and they re-signed Nico. But the other aspect of this is like, it's an old team. Everyone talks about their age. It's an old team. It's another year. And you're asking Kawhi to do more on the ball stuff, which could have repercussions because Derek and Chris aren't doing it as much as they did last year, which was a big reason for the defense being as good as it was. So there is going to be there's a high likelihood of a defensive, I'm not going to say drop off, but a slippage of some sort this year, where in an offense, in a starting lineup where it's going to pivot to a more offensive structure, the defense is the thing that's most likely to take a hit when you adjust for the way guys are going to have to accept new roles of who to guard. Like James is going to have to guard on the perimeter a lot more now. That's just the way of life.
Yeah, they're not going to be a top 5 defense. I'm pretty comfortable in saying that because they also shouldn't need. They should be top 10, hopefully, but they shouldn't need to be a top 5 defense to win 50 games.
Yeah, I mean, the offense could pick them up because they basically were back to being a top 10 offense when Kawhi Leonard was back to himself the last 20 or so games of the regular season, and that could balance things out. It's just they really solidified an identity on that defensive end last season, and having Kawhi having to guard more because all of a sudden he's your best wing defender in the starting lineup. If Beal is in there with John Collins this year next to James and Zubats, that's something to think about.
Something to think about.
Hey, we got Kawhi away from playing the 4, but now he has to guard way more and move around more on the perimeter. Is that the goal here?
What do you want? What do you want him to do?
No. What do I want him to do? No, it's a personnel thing, Will, not a want thing with Kawhi. It's do you want Bradley Beal starting over somebody like Chris Dunn or DJ?
Yeah, I do. I'm willing to take that risk.
Damn.
Okay.
I like scoring points.
You just want the
I would like to watch a team that puts up more than 95 points in a game. That would be great to me.
How refreshing
really
it was with how good they were defensively last season and how you could rely on that every night.
It's fine. If they could be top 10, they can be top 10 and just be not bottom 5 in offense. That'd be great.
I'm not worried about bottom 5 in offense. They weren't. And if Kawhi starts the year healthy, I think you're pretty much guaranteed. If he and James Harden are out there, you're going to be a top 10 offense.
We'll take top 10 in both.
All right.
Chuck
said
he's
not
not
out there tricking people, running around doing nothing, just saving energy.
This trade has broken Will's brain. Will's like, what if we brought Norm back somehow? We started Harden, Norm, Beal, Kawhi, Collins. We start small.
I will say
the bench 2025.
I will say the Collins fit is a little interesting because it does seem pretty seamless, but I think there are worry parts of the fit in terms of the overall defensive aspect. And I am curious to see how he's used offensively. I think there is a lot of potential. He's been a good corner 3-point shooter over the last couple of years, and he's been a fairly solid above the break 3-point shooter as well. I want to say he shot like 37.5% over the last 2 years on just above the break threes, which is a good sign of shooting acumen among the types of threes. He hasn't taken a lot of threes. It's like 3.5 per game, which isn't a lot. So they're going to need him to uptick that when he's on the floor. But I do think there are interesting ways. Lawrence Frank touched on it today in the Zoom call with media, where he talked about like he can play alongside Zoo because Zoo's so good in the short roll that he could find for little dump offs or lobs underneath the hoop, which we saw sometimes this year with Derek Jones and Zoo in a similar setting. Or if he plays alongside, and then if he plays alongside Brooke, you have Brooke as the floor spacer and John as the roller. And this way, that's another dynamic that opens up. So there are ways to use him offensively. I just don't think people should expect like, oh, here's a 20 and 10 guy or 18 and 8 guy.
Ask, how many threes is he going to be taking if he's the fourth option?
That's the big question.
Right? Like, how many more is it than 3.7 per game or whatever? And I don't mean that disrespectfully. Like, he's the fourth option.
5? Did he get to 5 attempts a game?
I think that's hard. I think 5 attempts per game on this team for a non-top 3 option is hard.
He's like Norm than he was.
Norm got there because half the team was gone when Norm was doing it. So, like, he was the guy who had to do something.
He was at like 16 per game when Kawhi was healthy or something like that.
What, 3 points?
Just when Kawhi would play, I think he was.
What? 3?
No, points per game. Sorry.
No,
not threes.
I think when he came back from
just
the injury,
in terms of volume and whatnot.
When he came back from injury and Kawhi was there, I want to say it was like 14 to 16, if I remember correctly, somewhere in that range. And he genuinely struggled because there was just less shots to go around. And
he was coming back from the injury at that point, right?
Yeah.
Like, that Kawhi wasn't back until after he was injured.
Yeah, so.
But shot diet-wise, Collins isn't going to be hoisting up that many compared to where he was.
I put it out earlier. I got to find my tweet again.
And that's not a knock on John Collins also. Like, that's not, I don't mean that in a bad way. He's brought in here to do exactly that.
No, because, if he only puts up, like, let's say 150 to 200 3-pointers, like, his 3-point percentage variance is going to very much, like 2 a game gets you to 160, 164 in a season. But that's going to bring a lot of variance to his 3-point percentage that could freak people out. I think it's a good point.
With Norm.
But won't the shot diet change, though, quite a bit? Because those, like, 9 2-point field goal attempts, that's not what he's here for. Like, and that's not really what he's on the floor for, except for minutes when he's playing small ball 5, for the most part.
Which will be fun. Those are going to be really...
So
I'm getting suckered into Wingstop again. And I've been there before, and sometimes it's good. It's very rare that it's good because we don't see it a lot. It's always closed. But
Wingstop is always good. It always delivers.
Well, in real life, yes. But Clippers Wingstop is the opposite of real life Wingstop.
Maybe because they're sponsored by the Lakers and sabotaging us.
I like that idea. And this goes all the way to the top of Wingstop. To DL Wingstop.
I tweeted out earlier today, like it was like 10:40 in the morning. Collins shot 38% on 3.5 threes over the last 2 seasons. That's not a lot of threes. But all but 6 of those were catch and shoot. So it's not like John Collins not just pulling up willy-nilly off the dribble.
Wish he was shooting 40% doing that. That's Will basketball. That's Will Updike basketball, apparently.
None of this nerd stuff,
Yeah, none of that. You dribble up, you take the shot.
The quicker you get out of the offensive possession, the faster you can get back on defense. Okay, fellas?
It's a demented philosophy.
It's simple math.
He shot 39% on corner threes. He shot 73% inside the restricted area over the last 2 years, which obviously is great. He had 172 dunks. You'll always take dunks. Let's be realistic. But here's the interesting part of this is he was 81st percentile in effective field goal percentage on threes, which is really good. But he was 32nd percentile in 3-point attempts per 75 possessions. So he's efficient when he shoots them. He just doesn't take them a lot. And I know people think 5 3-point attempts, he could possibly get to. What I will caveat this with is Marcus Morris, during his best years with the Clippers, averaged 5 3-point attempts per game. Marcus was a great 3-point shooter. We can't deny that. If John got to 5
for a period of time, yes.
If John was able to get to 5 per game, because Marcus was playing like 29 minutes a game. So if John can do that and get to that level, just on that part alone, it's a major win. Especially as a corner 3-point option. That's a major win. Because Norm's 3-point shooting, especially from the corners, was great. And I'm not saying it's a like for like, but he does. John Collins will have to not replicate it, but at least supply some of that. And also other facets, especially around the rim.
You mentioned the offensive rebounding being a good thing that I think I saw your tweet about it, Russo, about Collins being a good offensive rebounder. Looking forward to that, because that has always been a little frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, he's a solid offensive rebounder, especially as a corner crasher, which is the Clippers' offensive rebound philosophy. We saw Derek do it a lot this past year. Some of
they
his
wanted Terrence Mann to do it a bunch, and
they wanted Amir to do it a lot if he was in the corner. Like, it was just, they're athletic guys. If you're in the corner, just go crash the glass. It's a basic basketball philosophy, anyways. Like, in covering the LA Sparks and being able to see their practices that are open to media, they do the same thing. It's you corner crash anyone at the hash and up. You just got to get back. That's literally the simplest way to do it. He'll have his opportunities to offensive rebound because outside of Zoo and at times Derek, there wasn't much in terms of offensive rebound. So,
accurate statement.
This is a way to boost that. I thought the interesting part in Lawrence Frank's statement that they put out in the press release talked about the value of extra possessions, because that's the way the NBA has gone. I know it sounds simple, like, oh, just get more possessions and you're likely to win the game.
Clippers fans have watched us not get extra possessions, or what feels like not get extra possessions, in some pretty egregious cases.
It's been fun.
Recently.
It's a pretty big reason against Denver they lost.
Yeah. I like this question by Stewie B. Stewie. Is Bogey our sixth man? How do we feel if that's the case? Is Bogey the first guy off the bench now? Also, Collins is going to be starting. Dunn off the bench first. Bogey off the bench first. Lopez off the bench first. Where are we at? It's not Lopez.
Well, who's starting?
Who, dude?
Just Will in the background. For who?
So starting, let's go Harden. Do we do?
Are you penciling in Beal? Is it that done?
Yeah.
Just go with the roster that's there now. You'll save yourself some headaches.
Will it? But is it? If it's going to be Beal?
I think Justin just told us it's not. Wow, that was some inside info right there.
I'm just saying for
the
Wassler. Okay, so then do both of them. If Bradley Beal's here, who's your first player off the bench? And if he's not here, who's the first player off the bench?
Then it's defense if Bradley Beal is starting. If he's not, then it's offense. Then it's Bogey. So Dunn if Bradley Beal starts, Bogey if he's not, I would say.
Yeah, I like that idea. That makes the most sense because we would need defense at some point in the first quarter at the point of attack.
Dunn or DJ, assuming neither one of them are starting if Bradley Beal is.
It feels like a Dunn. It feels like a Dunn requirement to get him on the floor first.
Get that second unit energy going.
For the point of attack stuff and then
True.
Extra ball handling to save James early.
Yeah. Shooting takes a hit.
Who needs shooting? Apparently, like you just bring in Chris and Derek, and then you got Brooke with them who could do all the shooting. You can just bomb away from the La Brea Tar Pits.
This guy's hey, shout out La Brea Tar Pits. Everyone go and buy a membership. Yeah, these guys laughed at me. We get that Collins, Lopez, Zoo lineup out there. We're set. We are good to go. We got size, space.
That's why your first sub in is Lopez. You got to get Harden out of there. Get the dead weight out of there.
The dead weight. It's Kawhi. It's for Kawhi, dude.
I do really like the pairing of Lopez and John Collins. I think there's a lot to cook with there, with Lopez being
That'll
able to
be
spread the
nice.
floor. John Collins then gets unlocked as more as that rim runner when he's not playing next to Zoo, but playing next to Brook Lopez.
The Harden Collins Lopez minutes will be fun to look at and probably a point of contention for Clippers fans.
I did find it funny today in the Zoom call where Lawrence talks about signing Brook Lopez and like how impactful he's been and can be for this team, and then starts rattling off and then says, no disrespect, but since Isaiah Hartenstein. And I'm just like, oh no. Like,
he must listen to the pod.
it was just nice to hear an Isaiah shout out, just randomly. NBA champion Isaiah Hartenstein.
Thanks, Justin. Yeah. We wanted you on to remind us that the Oklahoma City Thunder won the championship.
We don't consider Shea an NBA champion. Only Isaiah.
Let's talk the rookie. We have Summer League. We got Summer League coming up. How excited are we for Yannick and Pulakaitis? Will, we'll start with you. Are you more excited to see Pulakaitis or Yannick?
Both. No, I
interesting answer.
Are you Poole excited?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I mean like Yannick.
And that is it for Justin Russo.
Yannick is probably closer in like the biggest of air quotes to a potential NBA rotation spot with the Clippers. Pulakaitis. I mean, if the skill set transfers, I just don't think there's anything that's going to be surprising from Pulakaitis in Summer League, I guess is all that I'm saying. Charles, you're on mute.
You're muted, buddy.
But you're having a hell of a time by yourself.
He tried to mute
Justin. Did you tell that last word? I think Pulakaitis' skill set will transfer over. I think nothing else will be able to catch up. I think he'll hit his three. I think he'll probably shoot 45% in Summer League and get smoked on the defensive.
He's just on Exhibit 10, right?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, but we go deep.
Oh no, I'm rooting for him all day. Of course, I want him to get that complete full standard contract.
Can I just say I actually like Pulakaitis? Like, I know it's like
of course
we all love Pulakaitis. Yeah, you're in good company,
preaching to
buddy.
the choir, man.
I don't know. I kind of think it's cool to just have a dude who just shoots the shit out of the ball. That's nice. There's nothing to yeah, went to Yale. Yeah. He's a smart son of a bitch, So
yeah. Justin Russo's chewing tobacco right now. If you're not able to watch the stream, Justin Russo just spit into a spittoon. Yannick, though, the issue for Yannick is the pick and roll defense seems a little rough. We talked about it last episode. It doesn't. That's kind of what I'm looking for in the Summer League from Yannick. If that can,
Do you think JVG being on the staff helps any of these players that like if the biggest concerns are defensive concerns that they can like find some pathway towards even a couple of minutes?
Will, he can't get out there for them. Listen, I watched Jeff Van Gundy guard LeBron James at Team USA camp, okay?
True.
Just saying that right now. He might be able to be like the fifth best perimeter defender on this team.
Who won the matchup?
Please.
Van Gundy berated him.
Dude,
yeah.
Come on now.
He was right there.
LeBron was just sunned by JVG repeatedly.
Yeah, sure. Just the Harden slap, just slapping it away every time.
How do you think James got so good at it?
Yeah, I don't know if the rookies can benefit. I think they can get good habits from it, but like JVG's not like a developmental coach. Like this Clippers team isn't a team that like brought him on.
No, and I mean like we've
these
like
guys.
The front office has already said these guys are not going to get any playing time. If we bring in Bradley Beal,
well, Lawrence Frank said,
Lawrence
Frank just said. Adam, am I wrong or am I right that Lawrence Frank had like a weird? The young guys got to play more, and then we signed a bunch of older guys.
We had the quote talking about having them up with the team more so they can practice with them more, so they can show more.
Practice,
even though there's not a lot of practices in today's NBA, but whichever ones they do have, they want those guys available.
My favorite part about that was Lawrence basically saying that in his day, the best way for a coach to see if a player was ready, if essentially was to just whip the ass of a veteran in front of them in practice. That's basically what he alluded to.
Yeah.
And that's kind of funny because that's how it was. And I think it's different in this day and age, but I don't mind the youngsters practicing more with the NBA team if it's going to give them any chance of playing. Because let's be realistic. What good is the G League going to do Jordan Miller for another year? Absolutely nothing.
I don't know what Summer League's going to do for him.
Yeah,
I don't
why
know
is he
either.
on the roster?
Because he needs reps, because they have no spot to play him in the regular team right now.
Yeah, what do you do with that?
If he cooks, we're like, cool. He cooked last Summer League. It doesn't mean now he's ready for the NBA, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's why I wish he wasn't at Summer League. I don't understand like, okay, that sounds bad to say. I don't understand the point. I get it. He needs reps. Same with Kobe. I get it. I don't know what it does for them.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, if I see them kill it on the ball, does that change anything? No, because they're not going to be able to. They're not going to handle the ball in an NBA setting with Kawhi Leonard and James Harden and John Collins and potentially Bradley Beal on the team. It's not happening. So unless it's like February 4th on the road on a back-to-back in Boston and 9 people are sitting, then that's about it. But you're not seeing that. So, and how much of the little things do you need to see? Because they've raved about the little things that these guys do. So if they've already done the little things and you need to see them get more on-ball reps, but they're not going to get on-ball reps, then what's the point? I don't know. I think it's also like there's a point of diminishing returns with Summer League for third-year guys, especially when they look great last year. Like, why would they have to be back? There are some guys in Summer League this year. I'm like, why are they there?
Josh Primo's on a Summer League roster this year.
Khalil Ware is in Summer League for Miami, and I get why.
He is?
Yes. I understand he was at the California Classic or whatever. I understand why he's there, but it doesn't make sense when you factor in that, like, the things he's doing there are the same thing he did at the NBA level. So he's not working on anything new. He's not ball handling for them at a Summer League level. Because the one thing I go back to, and I'm sorry this is taking a while, but like Keegan Murray's second year in the league, he went to Summer League in the California Classic for the Kings. But they had him work on ball handling and point of attack defense. So he did a lot of it. And he killed it for them in the California Classic. They shut him down. He didn't even do Vegas. But I talked to him in Vegas about it when he was there for Team USA Select Camp ahead of the World Cup that year. And he talked about how that was the plan, is he goes to the California Classic, he works on these specific things, and then once they saw it, that was it. And that's all they needed to see. But like, if you're not sending a guy to Summer League and having them do those things, I don't understand the point of it. So that's where that's like where the disconnect is for me.
But isn't the Summer League championship like the thinking man's Larry O'B?
Some people have said it's the most valuable trophy. Some people say it's the most valuable trophy you can win in Vegas, you know?
Hey, it's possible they go and just don't.
That's crazy.
Couldn't Miller and Kobe just not play that much? Like, they're just there to help the young guys go through it. I'm not saying they're not playing. What if they're not playing that much?
They're the Summer League vets. Yeah.
They're the Chris Paul of Summer League Clippers. The 40-year-olds just running through everybody.
Amir Coffey would be the Chris
That should
Paul
be
of
Chris
Summer
Paul's
League
real
Clippers.
farewell tour. Play in Summer League, play in the Cup, you know, hopefully play in the finals.
Maybe they're just more passive out there. They're just being connectors and trying to make the other guys comfortable, you know? They're not taking high usage up.
My NBA hoop idea.
I like that idea.
My NBA hoop idea that I've had for years is I think each NBA team should have to designate one all-star player, or what you would classify potentially as an all-star player, to go to Summer League for 2 games and just let them beat the shit out of everyone. I want to see that.
I'd be pro it if like there was 0 injury risk, which maybe
that's
there
fair.
is, but like that's honestly my only concern about adding any extra games.
Higher injury risk.
Could you imagine LeBron, like peak LeBron in Summer League, like just going against like Daquan Cook or someone? and just running right
It
through.
would probably look like when peak LeBron was in the NBA, is what it would probably look like.
But like so much better.
Peak LeBron versus the 90s. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, we're not. That's also on the
All right, now the
Patreon.
conversation
Adam
can really
versus
get
time
started.
debates. No, someone brought up in the chat. Is Amir Coffey coming back to the Clippers, or is that null and void with the John Collins? Not like the need isn't really there anymore. Kind of ish.
I'm sure things could
Is
change.
he coming back?
I'm sure things could change, but I've heard from even before the summer that he was not coming back. But
Wasn't it kind of an unspoken message when he didn't play at all in that playoff series and towards the end of the season?
I just think that they had prioritized other needs, and they, obviously, as we've seen, they've gone out and done that. And I think they're more than happy to let him go get his money elsewhere. And that's what I've been told from even before free agency. And I mean, I also think it's just a really slow free agent market in general. Like, this has been bleak outside of.
But I was told by reputable sources this was going to be the craziest free agency ever. I stayed awake.
It was all a sham.
Adam's been on fire this chat. You see what happens when his internet works, folks?
Yeah, Adam, let's talk about your internet for a second. Do you have like 3 hamsters in a wheel somewhere that are just working overtime?
Remember that old Lance Armstrong Sports Center commercial where they just found him keeping the energy on? Yeah. Before we knew he was a scumbag.
Hey, okay. We'll get into the Lance Armstrong talk on the Patreon too.
This is my shit.
Do you want to talk about doping and
cycling? You really want to talk about?
You want to talk about it?
Does anyone? We're gonna wrap this up. Justin, thank you so much for coming on. Clippers.
I'm glad I could crash it.
You didn't crash it at all.
Dude, start blowing up my phone. You guys are doing this? Get me in.
I did. I literally texted him. I was like, "Oh, you and Chuck are live." I was like, "Where the hell was my invite?" Just chop liver over here, you know?
Whoa! We'll add another row to the sheet. We'll put you on the list. We're crashing Google Sheets at this point. Clippers have a summer league game on the 11th, which should be very fun. Justin, Russo, final thoughts. Oh, we got a block.
That's not good.
I just
Someone got blocked.
Someone got blocked. Justin, Russo, your final thoughts on how the Clippers look right now, because right after we end this pod, they will trade for Bradley Beal, and we will all have to assemble.
Not trade for him.
Sign Bradley Beal. What your final thoughts on the new look Clippers?
I think it's fine. I think they're actually rather interesting going into the year. Obviously, they have like a hole at the 2-guard spot right now, but I don't think it's the end of the world. And none of like trading Norm was not unexpected. It was. I think it took a little bit longer. I know it's crazy to say a week into free agency, but like it took a little bit longer than I think people thought. But once you saw John Collins' player option got picked up, you had to have known John Collins was getting traded. And then from there, it wasn't that hard to fathom that this was something that could happen. And that they needed to possibly pivot from Norm, not because of anything Norm did. It's just the way of the world. Their roster composition.
Norm's fault.
Yeah. Their roster composition is rather fascinating. I will just go on record in saying I don't like the potential Bradley Beal fit. I think it could work. I'm just not a major fan of it. But
kind of with you on that.
But I understand the pathway why they would do it and the opportunity that they would have to pick up a player of his ilk for nothing, essentially.
High ceiling swing, low risk, high reward.
It can be. I mean, it could go pretty sideways rather quickly too. It's a weird team. Well, you never know. Let's just be realistic here.
But...
We've seen some things, sir. With some.
Is this about PJ?
It's about who people want it to be about. I'll just leave it at that. It's
This about Kai Jones, dude.
Very nice guy, by the way. I have nothing but respect for
yeah,
Kai.
Very nice.
All
right. Sorry.
It's an old team, and look, there's two ways to look at this. Old teams can be good because there's a lot of veteran know-how, there's a lot of experience, they've been through everything. Old teams can also struggle just because they're more likely to get injured. Maybe guys don't accept lesser roles because of ego, which is more than fair. So there's all these factors. But what I will tell people who've wanted the Clippers for a while to get younger is, in the current aspect and iteration of this Clippers organization and the way they've been doing things and the assets that they do or don't have, you could either be young and bad or old and good. And they've gone the old and good route, which I don't think is the bad call. So that's kind of my viewpoint on everything.
And
are they a tier 1 title contender? No. Are they a tier or 2 below that? Sure. But I think their whole thing is, let's just keep, if they were able to keep themselves in that level of at least giving themselves a chance at the conversation, they have to keep doing it. And I don't fault them for that. They haven't had to give up anything
in a playoff series this year.
Yes, I think right now they're the 4th best team in the West.
That's all I needed to hear, baby. That's all I needed to hear.
Counterpoint also, this might be their year.
I don't know if you've heard, but the Olympics are coming soon into it, and so is basketball there. Maybe when all those athletes...
I'm sure those are going to go off without a hitch.
Hey, look, when those athletes roll into Intuit Dome for that gold medal game, they look up at a Clippers championship banner, you're going to remember this conversation, Chuck.
I will.
Okay. I hope I do.
You could be
all right, that about wraps it up. Okay, you're getting darkly prophetic with some of these we're getting very nihilistic with some of these. Will, where can people, since we are putting this out on audio, where can people find and maybe review us if they'd like to?
Yeah, you can check out the audio version of this show wherever you get your podcasts. If you happen to listen over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can leave a little rating or review. You can leave comments over there on Spotify. But if you want to get in on these lives, get in the chat, mix it up, you want to check us out over on youtube.com. That's at Clippers Podcast. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the little notification so you know when we're doing stuff. But, however you listen, however you watch, we appreciate you.
We very much do. Adam Osland, you have the hardest job on this whole pod. One positive thing for these Clippers fans before we head into the week of the first Summer League game for the Clippers.
The positive here. Well, if it doesn't work out with John Collins, you have no one to blame but yourselves this time. Personal responsibility and accountability.
Man, you've been on fire this entire
How many
episode.
receipts do you have bookmarked right now, Adam?
I appreciate it so much.
From just this conversation?
And you said I was nihilistic? Jeez.
I did. I stand by it.
The collective GMing that was done today by Clipper Nation to speak it into existence with John Collins has happened. But I will say, to Justin's point of, it's cool getting younger, but you know what's even better? Getting better. And sometimes that means you have to be a little bit of an older team. And the Clippers are, but they brought in a guy who's going to be 28 all this season with all that athleticism. So I'm excited about it. Let's go.
He's excited about it.
Is he the third youngest player on the team?
Well,
fourth?
Probably.
Fourth? It's like him.
Fourth.
Roster
Giannick,
or?
Yeah, it's like him, Giannick, Jordan, and Kobe, right? Like, those are like the 4 youngest guys.
Yeah,
Chuck just took the biggest gulp as he realized this might be true.
Like, Kobe's like 34, right?
I mean, Brooke Lopez is a spring chicken. What are we talking about here?
Yeah.
You think Brooke's lifetime supply to Disney is just going to get the whole team into like the Matterhorn?
No, we need to stay away from rides. All right, we're ending the stream. We're going to talk more about the rides on the Patreon. Thank you for hanging out. Again, if you want to watch us, check us out at youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. Thank you to Justin Russo. Find him on Substack. Find him on Twitter. He makes wonderful content for Clippers fans and WNBA fans. Okay, he's trying to argue against himself. We have to get out of here. Kobe Brown is not 34.